Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Every Calorie Counts podcast. We are alone today, and we're going to be going into how to live a quote unquote normal lifestyle while trying to reach your goals, health and fitness goals. So, hi, Tim.
There you go. Sup. So, just so everybody knows too, to like give a little bit of context where we're at right now. I woke up like an hour and a half ago after a very, very long night. I had no internet. I scrambled to get internet. I'm now drinking a cup of coffee, and I still have eye boogers, and I don't even think I haven't brushed my teeth yet. So,
I haven't brushed my teeth
you know,
too.
yeah, I mean, I woke up, I woke up, I pooped, I took my vitamins, and I realized I needed to find internet immediately because it's been raining in New Jersey for 16 straight days. And my internet decided to go out yesterday and still it was fixed yesterday and now it's broke again or out again.
Yeah,
But
we're
anyway,
both, we're both at a pretty hectic spot.
what?
We're both at a pretty hectic spot.
Yeah, this bitch left us in New Jersey to
Oh
go to
yeah,
Florida. So like we're a little discombobulated, so everybody bear with us. But I mean that's typically the case for us.
yeah.
So yeah, I wanted to go over this topic because it's something that I've been discussing with clients over and over and over and over again here recently, and it's something that we're going to discuss with lifestyle clients all the time. I've heard this from multiple different people. One of my clients that you're actually friends with that you sent me originally a long time ago,
No.
always with like I don't want to say her name, but always with the like, how am I supposed to live like a normal 20-year-old, 20-plus-year-old girl, and still be healthy, right? She literally we talk about it all the time for her. I'll tell you later, but and it's something that we are chronically talking about with her. But then there's other, I mean, that's obviously something for lifestyle clients in general that we hear a lot, like, oh, this can be overwhelming, this can be stressful. And I think the biggest hurdle that everybody has to kind of get over as it relates to trying to get a more physical result in terms of the way their body looks, or even blood work in some cases, whatever, our health metrics, all those different things. The biggest hurdle that we run into is being able to be consistently adherent to a plan, because it is something that we need to understand takes us away from what a quote unquote normal life is. And I kind of want to almost like spoil alert this bitch up front here, right? And just say, like, sorry, but like a normal lifestyle is exactly what we're trying to get away from. Like that is the reality, right? Like, and again, I think, and was that where you were going before the podcast, before we started? Marina was like, wait, do we want to call it a normal lifestyle? Is that what you meant by that? Like,
Exactly. Because to me, normal isn't eating fast food. Well, normal isn't living the standard American lifestyles, like standard American diet. Like to me, that's not normal. We shouldn't be eating so much crap. We shouldn't be sitting on our ass all the time, and barely moving. Like that's not normal. You always
well,
see
well, it shouldn't be normal, but it
shouldn't
is
be,
normal.
but it is, yeah, it
Yeah,
is normal because you
yeah,
always hear online like people on social media saying, yeah, when I sit in my break room and eat my, chicken, broccoli, and rice, people look at me so weird when I'm just eating a normal meal. And that's how I view it too. Like when I was working in corporate America, I would eat my meals and people were like, oh my God, like, what are you eating? Just literally steak and potatoes. Like, what is wrong with that?
yeah. And see, that's the thing. Like, I would think the most normal person, in corporate America is, for the most part, going out to eat,
Going
honestly, for
out for
lunch.
lunch, yeah.
Yeah.
Drinks after work,
Or,
like,
or, or they're, yeah, or they're bringing something super minimal, which is like, whatever, fucking Greek yogurt and like a fucking ham sandwich or some shit
and
like
I
that.
feel
You know
like
what I mean? Like
anyone,
they're
I
paper
find it
bagging it.
so weird when people would bring leftovers, it's like roughly the same kind of food. Like if their wife not to like, or if they made dinner the night prior, whatever, they bring in the leftovers, it's pretty much like roughly the same kind of food that we're eating. It's some kind of protein, some kind of carbs. Maybe it's drowned in sauce, that's different, but like
Yeah.
I find it to be so
Well,
weird
well,
that
really the
there's
same
bacon
thing
in
with the
here.
sandwich.
What?
Yeah, well, really, it's the same thing with the sandwich too, right? Like I was just saying, like
Yeah.
the other side of it is like somebody's trying to be healthier. So what they do is they pack a lunch that's like a sandwich and a Greek yogurt or something like that. And again, I would say honestly, that might not be that bad. That really might not be a bad option in a lot of cases, right? Like if you're doing maybe like a turkey sandwich with some veggies on there and then a Greek yogurt, that might actually be a really solid option for a lot of people. But at the end of the day, what's happening between that brown paper bag and what you're saying in terms of those, there's no thought that goes into it.
Yeah.
With us, there's a lot more thought that goes into it and attention to the details that's going into it. And that's why we have a little bit more of a different outcome in terms of the look of that meal, the representation of that meal, whatever you want to call it. But the point behind the whole conversation here is, what is a normal lifestyle? I think that's something that a lot of people have to work on defining for themselves, right? Because I do think that's going to be very much different for Marina, for myself, right? And for whatever our next client that's a mother of two and that's just trying to, feel better in their own skin and move a little bit easier and lose a few pounds and improve their blood work, right? That sense of normalcy is going to be a little bit different for all of us. But what I will say is there's going to be a shift in what is normal, right? If you want to improve any of those vectors. And that's what people have to understand. We have or at least in mine, I know Riley and Marina have similar plans as I do, right? As far as the actual plan itself, right? There's might have little nuances here and there, but it's a similar structure. But within my plan, I actually have a thing that says preparation, right? We have a little paragraph about preparation in every single intro video I've ever done. So anybody that's ever worked with me knows, right, that I talk about being prepared, right? And mental preparation is something that I always touch on, right? In fact, that's what I key on there, right? And when I'm talking about mental preparation with people, I am talking specifically about these moments before they get started, where it's like, hey, understand that we need to be mentally prepared as it relates to these weekends. Understand that we need to be mentally prepared as it relates to what we deem as an occasion right now, right? Versus what we might deem as an occasion going forward here, right? In terms of where we should be eating off plan, how that should look, what that should look like, right? What is a responsible free meal versus what you've always thought was a quote unquote cheat meal, right? All these different things are part of this picture, right? But what I'm really trying to illustrate here is the reality of like, hey, we need to change that concept of what is normal. Because if you're getting into a program with us or any other nutritionist or coaches or whatever it might be, and you're trying to improve your lifestyle, but you're still living within the lifestyle that essentially got you to where you are today. And let's just, for the lack of better verbiage, just so I can place some negative connotation on it, right? And I mean that sincerely, even though it's obviously I'm building my own narrative here. But the reality is, if we're going to let's term this, right, this lifestyle that you've been living up to the point where you want to work with myself, Marina, Riley, or any coach for that matter, right? And that lifestyle that you've been living that led you to this point now, let's term that sick, right? You've been living a lifestyle that's led to you to be sick, right? And that's going to be completely and totally different. And again, I am fully trying to make that sound bad, right? Like that's my goal here. I'm trying to build my own narrative here. I'm trying to make that sound bad, so I'm using the word sick, right? In reality, what is sick? It could just be that you're a little bit overweight. It could just be that you're a little inflamed. It could just be that your lipids are a little elevated and your total cholesterol level is 250 and we need to get right. It could just be these little things. But again, I'm going to use the verbiage sick to help my case here. But again, you've lived a lifestyle that's made you sick. And now your thought process going forward is essentially, I still want to live the lifestyle that made me sick here, here, and here. But
But I don't
otherwise, I
want to
want
be
to be
sick.
100% healthy. Yeah, exactly. And I don't want to be sick anymore. And it's like, whoa, wait a second, wait a second, wait a second. So and again, I'm going to paint an extreme case here, right? But it's not that black and white, and we will evolve on this. But like if I'm trying to get, and this is usually the thing that I'll use, and again, extreme case. But like if I'm trying to get a fucking crackhead to stop smoking crack, I'm not going to be like, hey, come on over. And at the end of the day, if you're really good with not smoking crack Monday through Thursday, have a little bit of crack Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It'll all work out in your favor. Don't worry about it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we're perfectly fine here. But excuse me, I'm picking my boogers on screen. Um, but again, I think if we're really trying to bring it back to like again, because I don't want to just make this about like what people are doing wrong. I want to end up with some sort of resolution here, some sort of solution for people, some sort of broadened way of thinking to be able to kind of evolve somebody's process here and put a more positive spin on it. But ultimately, we need to like really decipher for an individual, like what is their normal lifestyle and how do we redefine that for an individual. I think that's a very important thing before we get into like the details, the minutia about this is like what is that I think that the details and the minutia are dependent on such, right, where it's like I can't help somebody decide what is right for them ultimately in terms of their quote unquote normal lifestyle now, unless we understand first and foremost like what is somebody's goals, what's most important to somebody in their life, right? What are we trying to maintain, what are we trying to keep intact, right? And what are the expectations that we're creating for ourselves in terms of our goals? And that to me is the biggest factor here, right? Is what are the expectations for yourself in terms of your goals? And then we can start to outline what should be normal to be able to meet those goals, right? And for a lot of people that we work with, there's going to be people that are like, hey, listen, I am content. And I had this conversation with a really good client recently where it's like, and we've gotten an amazing result so far. We've been working together for a decent period of time. There's been a consistent process of dropping body fat, improving muscularity over the course of a year, right? There's been a consistent process there. Her pictures are completely and totally different from one to the other, but she's a young female, right? That has recently graduated school, started her career, lives in a different area now in the city, and it's like hey, I want to explore life a little bit. Like I want to be healthier. I want to continue to go to the gym and build muscle. I want to be in a position where I'm continually making progress towards my health and fitness goals. But I want to explore the city on the weekends. I want to explore my new roommates and have fun with my new friends and all this stuff that I'm doing. Right. I want to be able to be career oriented and still be able to fulfill the goals or the plan that you're putting forward to me, right? And it's like, hey, cool. But you came to me with a very specific concept of, and I might be speaking for her a little bit here and embellishing a little bit, but like, let's just say she wanted to get like a six pack and build big glutes or whatever the case might be in terms of anybody's pinnacle, physique, right? Outcomes, right? The bottom line is, I'm like, hey, if this was your goal, realize that there's a good chance we're not going to be able to meet that goal with you having one or two free meals a week, with
Yeah.
you being a little bit more, explorative out and about and like doing all these things where there's less controls in place, right? But that's okay as long
Yeah.
as you're okay with getting to about 70% of that goal, 80% of that goal, or whatever that percentage is, not necessarily putting some sort of number as far as scale weight is concerned, not putting some sort of vision up front here and saying, I have to meet this goal, right? But more so just, again, living a lifestyle, right? And what we really all should be focused on are the processes that are ultimately going to get us there. But again, tailoring those processes to meet your individual lifestyle and kind of the other goals that you have as a person, as an individual, right?
Yeah.
You were going to say something.
Yeah, it's just like in that specific scenario, it's just like managing the expectations. Like, oh, I expect to get here, but you have to understand by doing X, Y, and Z, eating on the weekends or, exploring the city, not having as much control, we're not going to be able to get to over there. We can get, like you said, 70% there. But yeah, it's just going to come down to expectations. And that's something that I feel like I pick up on and I've learned to kind of screen in the process of onboarding someone in that first call, just by having a conversation, being able to see if that person is mentally ready or like can like understand and manage expectations, especially when it comes to changing the lifestyle in general and finding that new normal, and understanding that there will be a lot of change because like you said, like what you were doing that led you to come to me isn't working. So if you're coming to me saying I do this, I like that, I'm not going to give up this, you're not ready. And we pick up on that really really quickly, but someone like whoever you were talking about just gets it and understands and came to you saying I still want to fulfill this plan, but I also want to explore the city. I want to do this and that. I want to have fun with my roommates. And but someone that is coming to you saying that is like they get it. They're ready to figure out how they can do that while still getting somewhere in their goals.
Yeah, and I would just caution that like not everybody. So when this person came to me, when that person in particular came to me, right, and she would vouch for this big time. It was a complete and total opposite mindset where it's like, oh, I should be able to travel and I should be able to do this and still be able to get to this end outcome. And we had to break that down over time. So she didn't necessarily get that right away. She under to your point, we had these discussions, but I think for a lot of people up front, the discussions are kind of like, we want to kind of nurse them along. We want
Yeah.
to kind of put them in the best position to succeed. So it's like, hey, initially we might not be as aggressive with breaking somebody down because that's just negative. It's not really like, it's not necessarily helping somebody, but over time we start to establish like, hey, here's the reality. You see why this isn't working because you're still kind of living over here and you're not really making this move over here. Right. Like we have to start to shift something. And in most cases, it might not be shifting where somebody's living their life most comfortably. It's going to be shifting a little bit there to build and grow. So we need some comfortability, we need some uncomfortability to be able to grow, but it's also about switching the mindset in terms of the goals that we think that we're here to attain. If we're not putting in the work and effort that we're here to attain it with. And now I just want to be clear here. Go ahead.
It's I was just gonna say that it's like satisfying when
Yeah.
it clicks for someone and they get it and
Mhm.
their mindset shifts.
Oh yeah.
It's like almost like a breath of fresh air to like,
Well,
hey, you get it.
well, we posted Megan's testimonial recently, and she was another one that came to me with this whole mindset of like, oh, like I gotta go do this, I gotta go do that. And it's like, whoa, dude, chill out, bro. You're trying to do everything and a little bit of a different set of circumstances, but nonetheless, very similar set of circumstances to what I was initially talking about. But the bottom line there is that she's somebody, we have a testimonial posted on the YouTube. I've also have a short clip of it on her Instagram. And when I got that from her, I was literally excited just because it's like, dude, this is one of those testimonials where it's like I didn't lead her, I didn't give her any type of information to say. She did that entirely on her own. It's a 3 minute and 30-second testimonial, and it's basically like when you listen to that testimonial, you're listening to somebody that just gets it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like their
When
plan and their
I
communication, at
watched
least.
it, when I watched it in full, I was like, like she really just said it. Like I was like, this is so good.
Yeah, like I tell people all the time, like obviously, and it's like some sort of like Instagram fodder, so it might not get as much attention or hype behind it as it should. Where people talk about like your body's going to follow your mind, right? And it's kind of like for her, her mind is leading the way right now in terms of comprehension of what's going on, and she's logically processing things instead of emotionally processing things. And she's getting the result, but she also, again, she's taking the time to comprehend everything. She wants to be a coach in the near future. She's done a lot of education herself. And at the end of the day, she's going to be a really good coach, hopefully for every calorie counts. But nonetheless, well, yeah, that's again, Megan, we love you. And hopefully eventually that's something that we can do. But, as of right now, like we still gotta, if Marina Riley and I aren't making millions of dollars yet, I mean, come on. Anyway, bottom line there is, we're getting back to the topic conversation, I should say, is the one thing that I think we need to bring up though here is, and I had this conversation with a client yesterday too, but Bernard and I were talking for a little while. I also had a conversation with Michelle about this. So competitors, right? Like it's like, we obviously deal with a diverse group of clientele. Everybody has different goals. What's that?
I was gonna bring that up.
Well, I want you to start because I want to take the counter. I want to be the bad guy. You could be the good guy. I want to see, or I'm going to let you be the bad guy. Then I'm going to be the good. I want to see where you're going with this, but I guarantee you I have a counterpoint to what you're saying. So go ahead.
So
What do you want to
relating
bring
to
up?
competitors, like trying to live a normal lifestyle in the off season, because I'm just thinking about in the off season. Because obviously in prep, no,
Yeah.
like you're completely locked in. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts for anything. But for the off season specifically, it's your normal as a competitor is going to look really different than anyone else's normal as a lifestyle client because you still have goals in a very extreme sport. So you're still going to have to take more extreme measures. But yeah, there will be more leniency because your food is higher, because you have more time, because stress is down, because you're not doing as much cardio and whatever. So like that's how I view it, that like there is more room, there is more wiggle room, but it's never going to be anywhere near a lifestyle person, even a lifestyle person in a dieting phase. It's not even gonna be near that. It's gonna be a lot tighter than you think. And a lot of people, a lot of competitors, specifically from seeing other I guess, top pros who eat whatever they want in the off season, who have incredible genetics, who are on tons of drugs, who don't want to have kids, who don't really care about their fertility. Like watching them do more loose off seasons makes people think that they can do that as a competitor when the majority, the 98% of people absolutely can't. And I just wanted to
Again,
on a tangent there.
yeah, well, no, so I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that at all, or have much of like a like I thought I was going to have a counterpoint. I thought you were going to go somewhere else. Um, but what I would say, well, I thought you were going to go the exact opposite direction, by the way, where it's like, no, a competitor has to be 100% strict 100% of the time. But what I would say is,
I
I
can't
I
say
think the
that because that'd be so contradictory. Wait, what's going on?
that's true. But this bitch ate cookies the other night. But
They were so good.
this to me comes back to the same exact thing that we were just talking about, right? As it relates to general population, it's like expectations, right?
Yeah.
If if I as a coach and bringing everybody on as a competitor, and we have this concept where it's like, we talked about this a little bit last episode, and I've been talking about it a lot, and I'm comfortable as far as our position in our market, so to speak, in terms of the clientele that we're going to get as it relates to competitors specifically, right? Like we don't have a team full of IFBB pros, right? Like we don't have a team full of people that are on the seam or on the verge of becoming IFBB pros, like, right? We have good young competitors. We have some people that have a lot of potential in the future, but we're still growing our team and our good competitors to that point. Again, we're also going to get a lot of people that want to compete for the first time, a lot of people that don't know what their genetic abilities are, right? A lot of people that are, just kind of sticking their toe in this and figuring out what they are capable of in terms of their potential as a competitor in the future, right? So it's one of those things where we have a lot of unknown, a lot of uncertainty, and we're going to have a lot of people within that group that come in and they might love competing. They might be very passionate about competing, but realistically, and this might even be a conversation that we've had with this might even be a conversation I've had with some of them at least. I will be very upfront and honest with somebody where I'm like, hey, listen, the bottom line is, if this person wants to go out and eat on during their off season and like have a little bit of a looser off season, and potentially they might put on a little bit more body fat, they might not, whatever their lifestyle at a certain point in the off season might not be reflective exactly of a top level bodybuilder, whatever the hell you want to call it, right? The bottom line is, if I've already had a conversation with that client where it's like, hey, listen, it would be great if we're able to take a first place win within a class, like a class victory, right? But like, genetically speaking, your flow, your structure for whatever, bikini is a perfect example. Like if I have somebody that's got a little bit of a boxier physique, they don't have that ability to be able to produce those very round glutes. Like, don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean, especially if that person has a passion for competing, great. Our goal is to make that person better and better and better every single show that they do. Our goal should be to make that line up with their ability to be able to get a class victory. Does that mean that they're going to stand a shot in an overall against somebody like yourself that has the genetic structure, that has the flow, that has, even if somebody, and I don't want to use any specific names because then it would be like, but even if we took somebody that has one of those, like, they fucking work ethic is through the fucking roof, like they're fucking, they get hard as nails, they are every bit a competitor that you are mentally, but physically and genetically, they only have X amount of ability to, especially within a particular division, then like I can put that person up against you in an overall battle every single day. You might be a little bit softer, you might be a little bit whatever, and at the end of the day, you are going to win. There's no two ways around that. Like, you are going to win. You know what I'm saying? You have a better structure than that person. You're more aesthetically pleasing, especially given the criteria of the division. Like, that judge's eyes are going to go towards you and those fucking the round delts and the smaller waist and the perfect glutes. Like, they're going to go towards that every single time, right? Even if this person over here, again, worked their ass off compared to you, did all. So it's one of those things where, like, that person, again, my goal for them, and we'll set these quote unquote expectations that we've been talking about here, where it's like, hey, listen, our goal is to get you as good as we can, and maybe that's a class victory, and maybe at one of these local shows here, especially recently with how kind of watered down, no disrespect, some of these local shows have been, maybe we are fighting for an overall. But even if you win an overall, a part of being honest with yourself as a competitor is realizing that just because I won this overall here right, at some super local show that had 78 total competitors doesn't mean that I'm ready for North Americans. It doesn't mean that I'm ready for nationals. It doesn't mean that I'm ready for USAs, right?
That's
Like, it doesn't mean that
literally
I'm ready
me.
for the next
That
step.
was this past season, taking that overall at Muscle Beach, then not, taking third at PA Muscle, turning around and being like, no, I'm not ready for that.
Well, but different set of circumstances attached to it, though.
Yeah,
Yeah. But nonetheless, again, the reality is, to your point, like, we got to be realistic about the outcomes here and what that sets us up for in terms of future success or immediate future success, right? So it's one of those things where that person, I'd be like, hey, listen, you're still a competitor, you're still doing everything you want, but at the same time, don't allow, the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years of your life that you're going to be a competitor, right? Don't allow those years to go by without you also finding some enjoyment that you might regret that day when you wake up 5 years from now and nobody's told you this because you're working with another coach that maybe didn't outline these expectations for you, and you're walking around looking like a fucking you're a fucking as rectangular or square as a fucking Hershey's chocolate bar. You think that you're gonna fucking walk on stage and win like every single show you do. Like, the reality is, dude, like, I'm sorry, but like, don't wake up 5 years later, have only gotten fucking top three placings, but you're walking around going, I'm gonna work, I'm a fucking beast. Yada. It's like, great, but you just wasted 5 years of your life that you're not gonna get back, dude. All those holidays that you brought a scale to, you're not getting that back. Like, you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
All those times you
And
told
like
your
I
friends you weren't going
kind
out to
of
eat.
I see both sides of that. Like someone with not a great genetic structure or not great genetics to grow or whatever it is, like there's one side of it where it's like you don't want to rain on their parade, like you still want them to work their ass off, but then the other side of it is like you said, if you're up against girls who work just as hard or like have the same like flow or are as conditioned or something, like those girls who are genetically gifted are always going to win. If you're always up against the genetic freaks, you're never going to win no matter how hard you work. But like you said, like you also need to look at the other side where it's like you don't want to throw away however many years because you may not even get to where you want to be because you're genetically not there.
Yeah, and my thing for that is going to be like, hey, everybody's different. Everybody has a different, process, right? Everybody has a different mentality and a different perception of how things are. And if something makes somebody happy, I'm also not going to go against that at all. So if it makes you happy to grind your fucking ass off and live this lifestyle over and over and over again and not have much normalcy as far as your life is concerned and not define your level of balance, then by all means, fucking go for it. I'm not going to sit here and stand in your way for that. I applaud it. I find it admirable. Let's go. Let's do the fucking thing. You know what I mean? And then at the end of the day, you might turn around one day, and again, who the fuck knows? Maybe it's like, hey, I've been competing since I was 25, 26, 27, and it took me until I was 38 years old to get my pro card. That happens in some cases. And maybe that's what needs to happen in a particular case, especially for somebody who doesn't have, the best genetics. Maybe they are stepping on stage one day when they're 40 years old at Master Nationals and they're walking away with a pro card because they are in a place now where it's a little bit more, the expectations might be a little bit different, but again, we're still talking expectations, right? So again, the reality is, if somebody wants to go down this path, that's the expectation that we can all create for ourselves, right? And what we're talking about now. To bring this around, though, if I have a top level competitor, right, like somebody like yourself that's out there eating fucking pumpkin chocolate chip cookies,
Oh, they're
or
so good.
fucking,
They're actually
yeah,
still
see,
in the cabinet because it was a big box and I haven't
oh,
eaten
that's great. So just fucking, oh, wow. Yeah. It's been 24 hours, dude. But the
them.
bottom line is, I'm going to yell at you right now. And then we have, like, whatever, Michelle or whoever, as is Riley, whoever, Issa, whoever's at that next top level. It's one of those things where it's like, hey, if you want to move that scale and you can have a realistic expectation of stepping on that stage and one day holding that pro card relatively soon, right? Then your level of normalcy, if you're going to create that goal for yourself, needs to be fucking different than whatever idea of normal this person has, that person has that. It's not, you're not normal anymore. I'm sorry. Your goals
Yeah, and
far
like
exceed what
that's
normal is.
I'm just gonna butt in like that also again it's gonna come back to managing expectations, but also to each individual athlete what they need to do over the off season. Like we just talked about this. For me, I just need to grow and I need to grow a lot in the in the glutes. So if I want to get the maximum growth out of it, we need to tighten up and we have to be really, really strict in the off season. Whereas if it's someone who is already big enough or, you know, has already, you know, hit that muscle cap in bikini, they can kind of just chill. Not that they can put on all this body fat because then, you know, it's going to take longer to diet and things like that. But like those people may have some more leeway, even in training too. Like for me, if I want to grow, I need to absolutely kill myself, kill my ass in the gym to get there. Whereas someone who's already big enough can miss a training session here and there or not be as just like strict and training so hard. So just managing the expectations of that specific athlete and where they need to be in the off season, because then that will their normal is going to look different to someone like me.
See, I would even say so. Yeah, I think the point that you're trying to make there is even within different spectrums or different classes of athletes, right? We're going to have different levels of quote unquote normalcy or balance or whatever it might be. I think some people more so than what you're saying. I would lean on the reality that some people are just legitimately genetically gifted, right? And there's no two fucking ways around that. I know some people want to create, you know, well, drugs or whatever, this, that. No, honest, no, not at all. Doesn't matter. This person could have never competed before in their life, right? But at the end of the day, they're going to eat fucking 10 times more food than you, right? Therefore, be able to take in 10 times more calories than you, regardless of the source of fucking food, right? And they're not going to put on fat. There are some people where I would have to fucking like, I don't know what we'd have to do to them, but they're just there. It's almost like there are going to be some people when you've coached a good group of people, you understand this, right? And I know this would resonate with any of the higher level coaches that have had that group of people. There's some people where it's like, I look at them, it's like, dude, it's impossible to make you fat. Riley's a good example of this. Like, it'd be impossible to make Riley fat. Impossible, dude. Like, I
So
don't know
good
how I would get that motherfucker fat. What?
I'm so good at getting fat.
Well, and
It's
again, some
actually a
people are
skill.
realistically. Yeah. Cassie's another one. And Cassie's, you know, coming off of a pregnancy right now. It's a different level of circumstances around those lines. But like previous to that, Cassie could eat 400 fucking, like she could legitimately come close to like whatever it is, 3,500, 3,600, 3,700 calories a day. And she doesn't put on an ounce of fat. Yeah. Like there's her maintenance calories. And then that maintenance calories has essentially a gap to it for some people, right? Where it's like her maintenance calorie starts here, where they're whatever, 2,300 calories a day. But for her, she can go all the way up to whatever it might be. Let's say 3,700 calories a day. And there's that huge over 1,000 calorie difference in that day. And her scale weight only fluctuates a little bit within that, right? But it's still within a maintenance calorie range for her, right? And that range is going to be more realistic for most people than just a specific number, right? So it's like hard for her to grow and put on weight because of that. But then there's also got to be that understanding, like, hey, if we push all the way up to this, you're probably not realistically losing fat until we get all the way down below
I
this
was
number,
just thinking,
right?
like, so when she diets, it has to be like much lower.
Yeah, it's like we're wasting our time essentially dropping fucking 200 calories per day. We go straight down to like, you know, yeah, let's go down what your realistic maintenance is during that primer phase, clean things up a little bit, yada, yada, yada. But again, regardless of any of those deeds, the reality behind this is that fucking, you know, my thing with it, with most high level competitors, even if they are genetically gifted, right? Even if they are, and again, if you're genetically gifted, we're going to have to feed you. So I might have somebody where it's like, dude, and again, Riley was somebody like this, where it's like, dude, I want you to go out. I had a kid, Mark, once who just wanted to put on size, wasn't a competitor, but just wanted to put on size. And it's like trying to feed him was a bitch because and there was a point where it's just a lot of fucking food, right? It's like we're not pushing that weight at all, right? We're not pushing the quality size that we want to see, right? It's like sooner or later and again, it's not that you should be chasing scale weight. I want to say there, but but at the end of the day, if the weight's not budging at all, and we don't have this physical appearance of volumizing a little bit, right? Something somewhere is wrong. Either you're not fucking following the plan, or like in his case, it's like, dude, I want to see a fucking picture of every single meal today because I don't believe for a second that you're not eating this food. And I remember for like 3 days straight sending me a picture of all the food. And then he's sending me pictures of his stomach. And by the end of the day, it's fucking like, you know, he looks like he's fucking having a baby. He's like, dude, I'm telling you, I'm eating all the food. I'm just not. Every morning I wake up and I'm fucking shredded. And I'm like, son of a bitch. So we literally had meals plugged into his diet that were like, eat all of your macros. And then I want you to have, you know, whatever, these two burgers and fries. I want you to have, you know, this giant bowl of fucking granola and this concoction that we made for him. There was like 1,000, you know, an easy to eat 1,200 calories, whatever it was, on top of all their food, right? Like that's going to happen. And there's going to be those people. But at the end of the day, even if a competitor is gifted genetically in terms of their muscularity, they've already capped out as far as their amount of tissue. To me, that's the person that needs to be even more as controlled as you are, right? Like to me, there's no difference. If you're a top level competitor, it's your fucking job, dude. Like that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to establish yourself as a professional athlete. And reality is like, if nobody told you this, like just because you get a pro card, you're not making any fucking money. You can consider yourself a quote unquote professional all you want, but like you're not going to if you're not ready for that level of attachment to what it is that you're trying to do, don't fucking do it. Because ultimately, what's going to happen is you might go for that pro card, and maybe based off of your genetics and your capabilities and the things you've already accomplished, you do get that pro card. But now you're just a goldfish in the ocean. Like you're just like you're not going to step up within that category and be anything within that professional league that's going to equate to any kind of success, either internally for you or externally in anybody else's mind. So, like, what are we chasing here? Like, you got to learn how to be within this game like 100% of the time for you to be able to progress. And I would argue too, like when it comes to a good amateur bodybuilder, right, or a good amateur competitor, we'll say, right, taking the next step within that competitive league, right, the bottom line is you want to take that next step. It's never going to happen in your prep. It's
Yeah.
not going to be it's not going to be the amount of drugs you take. Yeah, it's not going to be the amount of drugs you take 90% of the time. It's not going to be, again, conditioning should already be a component at that top level, right? Should already be something that you've established that you can get to, right? You have the balls to get there. You have the mental fortitude to get there. So from here, we're not talking about a matter of stepping on stage more conditioned than anybody else, right? Then it does happen. There's some freaks out there that are so muscular, like that guy Carl's Thomas Jr. It comes to mind. He's a bodybuilder. He just competed a few months ago, or maybe a few weeks ago, and everybody was talking about how it is the same exact thing that happened at nationals, right, with him, where everybody's talking about how much muscle the guy had. For years, this kid had, for at least a couple of years, the guy had probably the most muscularity on the amateur circuit that you could possibly want somebody to have, right? Had the structure, like he was short guy, just fucking round as hell. But it was like matter of like, can we get him conditioned enough? Even at his pro show, right, his pro debut here, he was probably pound for pound the most muscular guy on stage. But at the end of the day, it was one of those things where it was like, is he conditioned enough? And that ultimately was the question for him, is can he get conditioned enough? So those things happen too. But what I'm trying to get to here is the reality, like by the time you get to that top level, whether you're as muscular as you want to be or whatever, it's usually going to be a matter, even in the case of a guy like Carl's Thomas Jr. I hope I'm saying his name right. But it's going to come down to that offseason more times not. Maybe for a guy like him, he needs to maintain a leaner physique during the offseason and take maybe even a shorter offseason in some cases, right? He's already got the muscularity. To your point, maybe you don't need to go in there and focus on, creating this whole physique as far as the amount of muscularity he's trying to build. So maybe it is taking a really shorter offseason for him, keeping him nice and leaner. That way his starting point for prep is that much leaner, right? And but again, the fact of the matter is that means he needs to have a tighter, right, far from normal off season. You know what I mean? And again, create the circumstance, and we can kind of go back and forth, and everybody might have their own opinion on it. But for me, it's going to end up being like, we get that top level competitor, you're so far fucking from normal. Trying to create normal with any type of level of consistency is just fucking mind blowing to me. It's like you're not really here for what you think you're here for. If you want to live a normal lifestyle, go get a new fucking hobby, because it's not bodybuilding, right? Like bodybuilding, there's nothing normal about it. There's nothing normal about it at that level, right? Competitive bodybuilding, there's nothing normal about it at that level. And it's like either you have to learn how to live within that and make continuous progress there and be excited about that, be happy about that. And again, if it's not making you happy and excited and ultimately a better person to live within that structure and that concept, don't fucking do it. Honestly, at the end of the day, don't fucking do it. Yeah. You
Yeah.
drag yourself through that all you want. You're ultimately not going to be happy, especially at the pro level, where it's like if you're not doing all those things anyway, you're probably just going to continue to place fucking 10th place, 11th place, 12th place, whatever it is, 15th, 16th place over and over and over again. When as an amateur, you were so used to taking first place. So your enjoyment in this process is just going to continue to go down and down and down. But again, we're talking so much about competitors. I think overall now we have to look back at this and think the reality is like, hey, we need to understand, we got to redefine what is normal. We talk about this all the time. I usually use the word balance because that's what people use for so long in terms of the terminology attached to this concept. But whatever you want to term it, balance, normal lifestyle, whatever fucking verbiage you want to put on it. I don't care. The bottom line is we need to redefine what your balance is here, because it's going to be different from your girlfriend's balance. It's going to be different from, your husband's balance. It's going to be different from this person's balance and that person's balance. Stop comparing yourself to others, because we know that that doesn't help us in any way, shape, or form here, right? And then we need to establish, like, okay, what are your expectations, right? And now let's fiddle with this idea that we have a balance that we just redefine, and start to tinker it and make it something that fits our goals and expectations for ourselves,
At the
right? If you
moment.
have
So that was,
somebody,
let me add, because like
it's a good point.
I feel like your definition of balance, normal, whatever, it changes throughout where you are in your process, whether it's as a competitor, whether you're in prep, whether you're in a growth phase, or whether you're a lifestyle client just trying to build better habits. It's going to look different when you're just trying to get healthier, change your lifestyle, versus when you're actually trying to lose body fat, versus when you are in
100%.
a period where maybe you have a lot of weddings and you have a lot going on. Everything is gonna, or your normalcy is gonna look different dependent on where you're at in your process.
That's a really good point that could bring up a whole nother fucking 10-minute conversation that we don't necessarily have time for right now. But I
And
do want to touch on that.
I feel like that, sorry, I'm going back, but like I feel like that concept too, at least to me, it's comforting. And I tell this to other clients too. Like it's kind of comforting because nothing is permanent. Like when I was in prep and I was really fucking struggling, I was dizzy because I was so fucking hungry. And I was tired and everything hurt and laying down hurt. I would just tell myself, like, this is temporary. It's temporary. I'm just, let me just get through today and like whatever. So you could even bring that down to a lifestyle client where it's like, okay, right now we're going to tighten up, but hey, it's only going to be for the next 4 weeks. If you absolutely hate it, we can talk about something else, you know? But like understanding that nothing is permanent and everything is always changing is kind of comforting.
That's a really good point. Actually, I don't know if I have much to add to that. I think that honestly could be even like the global theme here. Like we just talked about balance, we talked about normalcy, we talked about like expectations, but the reality is, to your point, that always might change. That's a dynamic thing, and you have every right to change that as an individual. You have every right to change as a competitor, as a lifestyle client, and it's like, and to be honest with you, I had a conversation with somebody recently where it's like, they came on relatively recently here, right? And it's been a process where every single weekend has been something. It's been a wedding, it's been this, it's been that. And I just told them, like, hey, I am not your mom, I'm not your dad. Like, I'm not going to tell you not to do something.
Yeah.
But if you continue to come back to me and tell me, like, oh, I want to reach these goals, I want to reach, and they're sending me pictures of when they used to be leaner. I'm like, well, now you got to come to grips with reality. Like, well, I'm just so busy right now and I want to enjoy this because these are
Yeah, like
important
if you're
moments.
busy,
I'm
that's
like,
okay. Let's put the shredded goal on the back burner and worry about like do that later.
but the caveat there is, right, because I think this is a big part of this, because it's, with, especially with women, with men too, actually, with people in general, there's literally no distinguishing genders here because it's very across the board. But it's like, no, if you want to live that lifestyle for a little while, and that's your normal for now, right? Don't fucking wake up 2 pounds heavier and be like, oh my God, I can't do this. It's so much. Like now
Yeah,
you're just creating that negative construct in your brain. And like you're going through this negative
weighing
cycle
it.
over and over and over. Yeah. And you're making it worse and worse and worse. Realizing, like, hey, body fat can come and go. It doesn't shouldn't give us an excuse to gain a whole bunch of body fat. But at the end of the day, if we're going to take this season of our life, right? And we're going to say, hey, over the course of the next couple of months, I have all these things going on. And I would say, and this same thing, same conversation I have with people when they're going on vacation or when it is the holiday season or whatever, right? And they say they're going away for whatever it might be. Let's say 2 weeks, just to make a good point here. Say, okay, you're going away for 2 weeks. You want to enjoy yourself, fine, right? But there's a give and take here, right? I'm going to charge you up front for this, right? And that's the way I like to always put this concept, right? It's always money, I think, is the easiest analogy to make, especially for somebody that's mentally retarded like myself and can't make good analogies, right? I'm going to charge you for this, right? This has a cost to it. So if you want to go and enjoy yourself, I'm charging you, whatever, between 4 and 6 pounds. And that might sound egregious, but I'm just trying to make a point here, right? I'm going to, and I don't think that is egregious, by the way. If somebody's going away for 2 weeks and they're uncomfortable gaining 4 pounds, don't eat like a fucking idiot while you're away. Don't tell me you're going to enjoy yourself every day. Don't tell me you're not going to get your steps. Don't tell me you're not going to track your food. Don't tell me you're not going to make smart decisions at the very least, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're going away for 2 weeks and you're not content with gaining 4 pounds, then something's wrong somewhere, right? We got to talk about that. But again, I'm going to charge you up front these 4 pounds, 4 to 6 pounds. Are you okay with that? And if somebody says yes, then I would say, okay, go on vacation, enjoy yourself. But again, let's make some smart decisions. Let's make sure that we're moving on a regular basis, right? If we have the opportunity to hit the gym 2 or 3 times there, don't think 1 or 2 sessions is going to be a waste of time. It's just additional movement for yourself and keep you healthy at this point, right? But it's like, I'm going to charge you those 4 to 6 pounds up front, right? Be happy when you come back and you've enjoyed yourself, you've had a good time, and you're 4 pounds up, right? But at the same time, somebody's like, oh, no, I'm not okay with that. Then I would say, then don't fucking put yourself in a position where you're going to gain 4 to 6 pounds, right? Like, but again, any season of our life, right? Whether it's a competitive season, whether it's a fucking wedding season, to your point, which I think it is right now, right? So it's like that's a good, but the bottom line though is all of that shit is going to come back to a reality where it's like, hey, only expectations, right? Expectations. Those things can change to Marina's point, which again was a very good point that definitely should have been brought up. But yeah, I think overall it's one of those things where it's like, hey, uh, what is normal needs to be a very considered we need to be very considerate of that from individual to individual to individual, and then what the expectations are should lead us down the path of defining what is normal or what is balance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then again, to cap that off, to Marina's point there, that can change from time to time to time, and that's perfectly fine and okay.
Yep.
Did we cover everything? Are we good?
We hit everything.
I feel like that was a good one. Marina
Absolutely.
didn't even know what the fuck we were talking about until fucking three
I hit
minutes prior to
record.
starting. Yeah.
No, exactly.
So
No, I really think that this was a good episode. And anyone can relate to it and get something out of it. Competitors, lifestyle peoples. Yeah.
yeah. Now we just need to come up with the most clickbaity type of title so that we get 1 million listens and views.
Woo!
Yeah.
Alrighty. Do you have anything else to add?
No, I think I'm good. I think I'm good. I'm pretty content.
Alrighty, so that's it for today's episode. Like, subscribe, share with your mom. And we'll catch you next week.